fair question. I mean, I literally have hardly slept in 3 days. I don't know if I'll be coherent, but let me tell you this. Worcester and Massachusetts have been good to me. They've been very good to Hillary, been good to our family. You helped elect President Obama, and you sent a Congress there to try to get something done for America. And now people are hurting in Massachusetts and throughout America. And it is perfectly clear what the strategy is. You see all these polls and the numbers are all over the place. Let me tell you something. They're all right. So how can they all be right? Some are close, some show they're winning big. They're all right because they're accurate in terms of they're measuring who they think will vote. And what they think is that all the independents that supported us last time, a bunch of them will stay home this time. Because independents don't like politics, otherwise they wouldn't be Democrats or Republicans. So they keep waiting to be disappointed by the last person they voted for. And I'm telling you, you ask Richie Neal and Jim McGovern. Barack Obama, the president, has bent over backwards to try to get a bipartisan health care bill, to try to get bipartisan support for everything. He has done everything he can do. And he's had the same experience I had. You know, I was governor of Arkansas. We had a little state. Everybody knew everybody else. It would have been idiotic for us to try to do things without trying to find bipartisan solutions. We just did it. So I got to Washington and I realized that one of my the Republicans, the friends in the Congress who was a candidate with me said, "Bill, you don't understand. We're a long way from home now. And when you're in Washington, it's in our interest just to say no and try to shut you down because you're so far from the people, they'll never figure it out. And if we can just make you look like a failure, then we'll win because your base will be discouraged." And then the same thing has happened. They hope some of our liberal Democrats will stay home because this health care bill is not liberal enough to suit them. And it's not as good as I wish it were in some ways, but it's so much better than what we've got. And I'm telling you this because we have seen this movie before. This movie has shown at your local theaters before. And in 1994, the two parties were almost even going into the midterm elections, and we got wiped out because the actual vote was a 6.5% difference nationwide. Because we had sympathetic but disappointed independents and sympathetic but disappointed liberal Democrats who wanted health care and didn't fully understand the filibuster then, who just stayed home. And they got the very thing they dreaded by staying home. Their worst nightmare was fulfilled but through their own inaction. Now, I've been up and down the streets of Worcester many times, and I am deeply indebted to you. And I am here trying to repay my debt. Because I saw the debate the other night. Actually, you know, even when we're not filled with crises, except I have to wait for Hillary to come home on Friday night, and the rest of the time I'm like one of those little kids movies, Home Alone, and so, and I'm like, oh man, I basically watch movies and sports on television, but I channel surf and I came across the debate, so I watched the whole thing. And here's what I saw. I saw two really good-looking, young, articulate candidates. I resented them both. Except one I agreed with and one I didn't. And the one I didn't, I thought was particularly adroit in using code words to basically to confuse people about what his real position was. But I'm pretty adroit at decoding code words. So here's what I want you to think about. And I want you to go out and talk to every living soul you can find between now and election day. And tell somebody that not voting is voting. Not voting is voting for the other guy. Not voting is bringing about the very circumstance you seek to avoid. I understand why people are frustrated and mad. They want their jobs yesterday. They want their wages to go up yesterday. They want to be able to pay their bills yesterday. Washington is exceedingly slow. The framers were concerned about abuse of power, and so they gave us a slow government. And it's been aggravated. I'll say more about that in a minute. But you've got to understand that it's not enough for you to be at this rally and show up and vote for Mark Coakley. You've got to talk to every living person you see between now and Tuesday and tell them what I'm fixing to tell you. Because not voting is a vote. And cynicism and disappointment and all that is an excuse for inaction. It's just a way of having your own negative attitude reinforced because you bring about the very circumstances you want to avoid. Now look, in that debate, it was clear that there were 4 important differences that will affect the lives of every citizen in Massachusetts. The first is, what is the right response to the economic meltdown we suffered, which was brought upon by the self-indulgent risk-taking of powerful financial interests? And look, I'm from New York City, and I think you can be pro-business and pro-labor, and I want to create jobs. But people who are running financial institutions are intermediaries. They take some people's money and invest it in other people's business, right? And because we think they can do that better than us, we give them a cut. But that's what it is. It's an intermediary institution. Paul Volcker, at 84 years old, said he never had been able to figure out that there was a net positive contribution that just doing trades added to the economy. John Bogle, a Republican from Philadelphia, 84 years old, who serves with me on the board of the U.S. Constitution Center, said he voted for a Democrat in the presidential election last year because he was so mad at the Republicans for not restraining the excesses of the financial system in which he spent his life. He developed index mutual funds. He said it's a disgrace. Ben Bernanke, appointed by former President Bush to be head of the Federal Reserve Board, said that this financial crisis was caused by inadequate regulation. Okay, so I listened to the debate. What did she say? I think these people have to be held accountable for being open and transparent, and we have to restrain the excesses. What did her opponent say? Government's a bad deal, and we need to let the free enterprise system work. She's right, he's wrong. Everybody who's ever studied this. Wonder whether she meant it or not, because her record as Attorney General speaks to that. She was the first Attorney General in the country to actually bring lawsuits to try to restrain some of the excesses in this subprime mortgage market. She recovered tens of millions of dollars from Massachusetts consumers who had been abused by abusive financial practices. This is the number one thing. Do you want a repeat of what happened last time or not? Okay. Now, here's the second big issue that I heard between them. How do you propose to make good things happen? That's a way to stop bad things from happening. Second issue is, what are they going to do to make good things happen? What's her position? We have to create more jobs by investing primarily now in changes in the way we produce and consume energy. Building a clean, efficient energy future in a way that will mobilize millions of jobs across America. And in Massachusetts. Now, and therefore, if you're going to have a tax cut, it ought to be targeted to guarantee you'll get those jobs and that economic activity, so you'll do more good for the economy than the tax cut will cost. What's his position? An across-the-board tax cut. What was the code word? This is what President Kennedy did.